Unit 1. Writers and Stories. Listening to an interview with a writer. Reading. Yiheki. From 1905 to 1992. Focus on vocabulary. Average. The amount you get by adding several quantities together and then dividing them by the number of quantities. Confused. Unable to understand something clearly. Insist. Demand that something should be done. Midday. 12 o'clock in the middle of the day. Poetry. Poems in general. Old-fashioned. Not modern and not fashionable anymore. Routine. A usual way in which you do things. When did you start writing? I first wrote stories and poems when I was at primary school. What was the first thing you wrote? When I was 7, I wrote a poem which won second prize in a national competition for school children. When did you start writing stories? When I was at university, I wrote short stories for a student magazine. My head was always full of ideas. While I was finishing one story, I was planning the next one. Didn't you get confused? Not really. I used to write very quickly. I finished most short stories in 2 or 3 days. As soon as I had finished one story, I started the next one. Do you still write like that? No, I don't write short stories now. Now I only write novels. They take much longer. So how do you write now? Do you have a fixed routine? Yes. I write from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, with a 10-minute break for coffee at midday. Do you use a computer? No, I'm old-fashioned. I use a pencil and paper. I used a computer for a few weeks, but it gave me a headache. First I write something by hand, then my secretary types it onto the computer. My publisher insists that I send everything as an email attachment. How many words do you write usually? I write 1,000 new words a day for a week, then I spend 2 or 3 days checking the week's work until I'm completely happy. I changed my last novel 6 times before I was happy with it. Do you show other people? No, not until a novel's almost finished. Then I give it to 2 or 3 good friends and ask them for their opinions. Do they ever tell you they don't like what you've written? Yes. Last year both of the people who read one of my books said they didn't like how my story ended. So I changed it. What did you think of the ending of your last story? When I finished it, I thought it was my best ending yet. That's very interesting. Thank you for talking to me. You're welcome. Focus on vocabulary. A believer in. Someone who believes that a particular idea or thing is very good. A collection. A set of similar things that you keep together. Custom. Something that people do because it is traditional. Disabled. Unable to use a part of the body in the way that most people do. District. An area of a city or country. Law. The system of rules that people in a country or place must obey. Established. To give someone a respected position in society or in an organization. Pioneer. one of the first people to do something that other people will continue to develop. Style. A way of doing something that is typical of a particular person, group or period. Yahya was one of the pioneers of modern Egyptian literature. As well as being an important writer, he was an expert on Arab culture. Yahya was born in 1905 in the Sayyida Zainab district of Cairo. He graduated in law and worked for a short time as a lawyer. In 1929, he began his career as a diplomat and he worked abroad for more than 20 years. The time he had spent in France, Italy, Turkey and Libya gave him experiences he later used in his writing. At the same time as he was working, Haki was also writing stories. His first short story, published in 1925, established him as one of the greatest short story writers of the Arab world. Haki always wanted to help poor and disabled people. In 1955, he wrote a collection of short stories about the poor and the disabled which won an important prize. One of his novels, The Postman, was made into a film. In 1992, he had to go to hospital after an earthquake in Cairo, but gave his bed to a poor person who he thought needed it more. Haki wrote in a new way about Arab society and customs in the 20th century. Haki was also interested in the Arabic language and he developed a new style of writing which is respected today. As well as writing his own novels and stories, Haki also translated Russian, French, Italian and Turkish literature into Arabic. He was a very strong believer in the power of books and he supported many young Egyptian writers. Haki died in 1992, but is still thought of as the father of the modern short story and the novel in Egypt.
Graduate.
خريج أو يتخرج.
The Arab world.
العالم العربي.
Disability.
إعاقة.
Arab society.
المجتمع العربي.
Antonym.
عكس.
Synonym.
مرادف.
Please, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.